Hello, Jeremy Harper here. Today we're talking about purchasing a property as a foreigner. So starting 1 April 2025, the federal government's introduced some significant changes around foreign persons and trying to purchase property within Australia. So this relates to people who are temporary residents or foreign-owned companies or foreign persons. It's really important to look at the definition under the FIRB or the Foreign Investment Review Board to get an understanding of what exactly a foreign person is. And they've put a ban on foreign persons purchasing established property or established dwellings in Australia for the next 2 years from 1 April 2025 through to April 2027. And this move's been put in place to show that the federal government is trying to alleviate the housing pressures around supply and demand and stopping some of those transactions for foreigners investing established dwellings and sitting on them versus actually having those available to the Australian market for either rent or to occupy the property. And so what is the regulation? So it's again focused on established dwellings. They will be what will be banned. They don't want to have access to that. And also it will ban the practice of land banking, so where investors purchase vacant land and sit on that for a number of years unimproved, waiting for the market and for the local development to push up the price of that land. It's a highly inefficient way of using that land. So the government wants that to be banned at number one, and also they will be conducting an audit with the ATO to go through retrospectively and have a look at some of those transactions to see if they can free up some of that land that's available, that's been potentially transacted on previously. Foreign persons will still be able to purchase new or near new dwellings or single block of vacant land, and that's going to maintain. It's going to still be there because they want to encourage investment. They want to encourage new properties to be built within Australia. So that's definitely still part of the ATO and or the government's remit. They want to still encourage that future development. And in terms of how is this going to impact Australian expats, there's been a lot of confusion out there. So it's really important to understand that even if you are an Australian expat, so you're a non-tax Australian resident, you're living overseas, this comes down to your status in Australia. So are you an Australian citizen? Are you a permanent resident? If you are, this does not apply to you. So go and have a look at the Foreign Investment Review definitions. That will not be applicable to you under the FRB. So you're still free to transact and purchase established dwellings whilst you're an Australian expat. That has not changed. But what's really important to understand is you need to do some research around the state that you're looking to purchase into, because it's important. Every state is governed by their own state revenue office, which has their own definitions around their rules. So for example, if you're looking to purchase into New South Wales and you're a permanent resident, you just need to have a look at their definition, the New South Wales definition of a foreign person, as in, are you a permanent resident entering into a contract and you haven't been in Australia for at least 200 days, you may be subject to the foreigner surcharge via New South Wales state revenue definition, which means not just paying your 4.5% stamp duty on closing of the property, but the foreigner surcharge, which can be now between 7 to 9% additional on top of the regular stamp duty. So you need to get some advice around that to make sure that that is not something that would catch you on that transaction. And so I think the real key takeaway here is this is targeted at foreigners who are overseas. It's not necessarily targeting people who are based in Australia or expats based overseas. So there has been some confusion around this. What I would recommend is getting some advice around if you're looking to purchase potentially a property and one is an Australian citizen, and maybe you have, let's say you have a spouse that is a non-resident. So let's say your spouse is a UK national. Then I think it's really important to get some advice around making sure that who's on the title will determine who's owning the property, but that will determine a lot of these ownership rules. And so I would definitely recommend you speak to sort of a conveyancer or a lawyer to get some specific advice around how to structure that, because that could have huge ramifications when you go to settle on that property. But separate to that, we need to work through the financing and which banks would accept Australian expat income, but also non-resident or non-Australian citizen income as well. So recommend you, if that's something that you need to discuss, reach out to us and we can go through that on a one-on-one consult.